Welcome to our 2130 Partners Operating Principle video series. I'm Suzanne Mayo-Frint, Principal of 2130 Partners, a leadership development and education firm, and co-author of our leadership book, Accelerate, High Leverage Leadership for Today's World. So this segment is focused on our operating principle, Explore Truths, mine, theirs, and ours. And so this operating principle, in order to understand what we mean by this and how to practice this, let's pull apart the words in this operating principle and start with the first word, which is the word truths. For mostly when I write this operating principle, always when I write this operating principle, I write the word truths with a small t and an s at the end. Sometimes I italicize it, put it in a different color, in some way call out that what I mean by the word truths is that there are more than one generally. Often there are even competing perspectives or realities or thought processes. So the word truths with a small t is to point out that I don't own, as an individual, I don't own the truth on many topics. I have my truth, I have my perspective. And so when I'm willing to explore truths, particularly my own, which is why we have the word explore, truths, and mine is the next word in this sequence, that I had to first be able to willing to explore my own truths, my own perspectives, my own biases, my own filters, to be able to be a valuable participant in a conversation, to work on an issue, a problem, an opportunity, a brainstorming, to resolve something with another person. So how do I explore my truths? And what does explore mean? Well, when I use the word explore, I mean in curiosity, to question, to consider, to reconsider. So to consider and reconsider my own truths, it's a self-reflective process. And it's always in questions. Is this situation, am I being useful in this situation? Is the way I'm looking at it appropriate for this particular environment? What about my past-based experiences may be biasing me for this? We've got lists and lists of questions that you can ask yourself and ask others and ask groups of folks to be able to explore truths. You'll find that in our book, on our website, and other materials. So the idea about getting good at exploring truths is to get really good at asking questions. So exploring my own truths is about asking myself questions, being able to set aside my file cabinet reality. I've spoken in other operating principles about the metaphor of using the metaphor of a file cabinet to illustrate how our brain works. It's the receptacle and the filing system of all the information we've processed and experiences we've had in life. And for me to be able to explore my own truths is to be able to pull open those file drawers, look at what I've got in them, and consider if that ought to be updated. Consider if there might be other perspectives that would enrich that file folder about that topic. So one of the examples that's often given, you may have heard this story in some version of it regarding the blind people who are all around an elephant with a hand on the elephant trying to figure out what it is. And being blind and not being able to see it, they have to trust their sense of touch. So one blind person with their hands on the leg of the elephant says, feels like the trunk of a tree. It's got a rough feel on the outside, it's solid, it's sturdy, it's round, it's about the size of a trunk of a tree. I think it's a tree. And yet another blind person has their hand on the tail of the elephant, which is waving and wiggling around and saying, gosh, this thing moves around, it's slim, it feels scaly, I think it's a snake. So as the story goes, the different folks say what they're feeling as they have their hands on the elephant. So here's the part that's the question about explore truths. Would it be more useful for each of us to argue about whether it's a tree or a snake or whatever else you might come up with? Or would it be more useful for us to share our experiences, what we're sensing, what we're experiencing, the data, the information, and then put that together collectively to try and sort out what we might be dealing with? So this elephant and blind person example is ages old, and I've heard it told a number of times myself. It really points to this idea of us being able to share our truths and to be able to explore the truths of others and to have the collection of those truths be much more valuable than mine alone. So explore truths, mine, theirs, and ours. If you want to practice this operating principle, notice when you're participating in a conversation and feel locked in, locked solid on your perspective, your point of view, feeling very righteous. So when you have that sense, step back, lighten up, take yourself lightly, be present, listen newly, be intentionally slow to understand, several other operating principles that we've gone over in other segments, and be able to question, what other data or information have I not experienced that could be useful here? What else is really going on? So explore my own truths. When I get to asking other people about exploring their truths, it's very useful if I've been first willing to explore my own. So explore truths, mine, theirs, and ours, helps us get to a better understanding of the issue we're actually working with. So practice this one with yourself, in a one-on-one situation, in a group setting. Get really great at asking questions and see what the difference it makes. What difference did it make in the conversation, in your ultimate result, in the solution, in your collaboration? So practice this, practice it often, and accelerate your leadership.